The Pit Stop, your weekly racing show where we look back at last week's racing. We look ahead to this weekend in racing as well. And of course, I'm Stephen McCollum, and you can catch the show on YouTube. TME Media AZ is where you can find it. And also over on Rumble, we have all of our programming on Rumble. For those of you that don't like YouTube out there, rumble.com/user/TME Media is where you can find it. When you get to that site, you'll see the videos pop up. Right above it, you'll see clicks like channel, live, etc. Just click on the channel button. It'll list all of our channels of our shows there. Click on that. And of course, you can find the Pit Stop there, along with the rest of our programming. You can also find us, for those of you that like to listen to us, on the audio versions. Well, your favorite podcasting system has it as well. Just search the Pit Stop Talk, or of course, the Pit Stop with Steven. It pops right up for you out there. And coming up this weekend, IndyCar's off. You get a little bit of a break. The NASCAR O'Reilly Series and the Cup, well, they're in Atlanta this weekend on the track called EchoPark, just outside of Atlanta. The Truck Series, well, they return this week as well. They're up at LimeRock Park here coming up in Connecticut, of all places. I don't know why I said of all places, but it's just kind of an out-of-the-way place for the Truck Series to go, but they're back underway. But, of course, before we can even look ahead, we have to look back at last weekend. In racing, IndyCar was at Mid-Ohio for that road course out there. The NASCAR O'Reilly and Cup Series, well, they went to Chicagoland for the first time since 2019. And let's get into last weekend, of course, as we look back here on the Pit Stop. We, of course, are going to start with the IndyCar out there. And this race was so much fun on Sunday. This road course at Mid-Ohio, it was a racetrack that IndyCar went to try to figure out, right, middle of the season. We've had some Alex Palou, who's winning the standings, have some success on road courses. We have drivers that don't have success out there. But now silly season has happened in IndyCar. So a lot of drivers trying to prove themselves, not just to their current teams, but future teams if they so need one coming up. And I've been telling you here on this program, Pato O'Ward, I like the way he's been running all year long. He just hasn't been able to get on that podium. I told you he's going to get a win soon out there. Didn't know it was going to be last weekend. Yeah, because I've liked his runs. I like the way he's been running. I like the way his team runs there at Arrow McLaren. He's just been outside the podium on several races as well. And then at Mid-Ohio, he had to battle his current teammate. More on that later. And he had to battle Christian Lundgaard, his teammate there, and he ended up picking up the win. Pato O'Ward gets his first win of the 2026 campaign for him as well. I like the way he's been running. Just has had some bad luck there. It's amazing how instead of just getting on the podium, right, he punches his ticket all the way with the victory. Pato O'Ward and his teammate, as I told you, Christian Lundgaard, they delivered the first top two sweep, by teammates this season. Well, the first since last year when Chip Ganassi Racing did it. Iowa Speedway, that was when Alex Palou and Scott Dixon were 1-2 there as well. Interesting enough, the Chip Ganassi Racing duo of those two, Scott Dixon and Alex Palou, well, they pulled it off 3 times last year. 1-2 finishes for that team as well. So interesting little dynamic here. First time this year it's happened. Well, let's show you the end of the race here. Indy 1, Pato O'Ward to his first checker of the season.
Pato O'Ward has gone all the way through this season without a single step to the podium. He rectifies that today, not just with a podium, but with a win. And more importantly, it's a McLaren 1-2 for the very first time.
Great job, guys. First one ever. Great job. Great job in the pits, boys.
You got to get your congratulations out because, of course, he doesn't just win it as the driver. It has to do with the team out there as well. And like you said, you saw a 1-2 finish. I think Pato O'Ward, could this catapult him to a couple more wins? He was kind of stuck in that 5th spot in the championship points. We'll check that out here in a little bit. Now, I told you, Pato O'Ward was battling his current teammate, Christian Lundgaard out there. How did he get the win and move on? Well, let's look at it. And, of course, all the videos, thanks to Fox, they do the IndyCar racing season. Pato, he has to pass Christian Lundgaard and hold on for the win. Here's that pass for you, Indy 2.
But look at Pato O'Ward in the top screen.
Yeah, I mean, Lundgaard's really lost a lot here in traffic.
And it's gone wide.
Way wide, and he'll have marbles all over his tires as O'Ward is ready to pounce.
I don't know why they kept switching.
And here he
away
comes,
from these.
shaping up his
Those
teammate
two
on the
orange
long
cars.
run down. Lundgaard will have the inside line. O'Ward is late on the brakes. Lundgaard goes to defend. They almost touch, and O'Ward tries to make it through, squeezes up on the inside. Lundgaard keeps it stuck in around the outside, but O'Ward has the lead.
No papaya rules in IndyCar. Those two were going hard at it, wheel to wheel, and O'Ward did exactly what he had to do, capitalizing on that mistake from Lundgaard, really forcing him wide in turn 5 there to take the point. Great move from Pato.
And so that's how he gets the pass, holds on for the win. And I call them orange cars, just in case you're not familiar with it. They do refer to them as papaya cars out there in that color for that. So he passes his teammate, gets the win there as well. And I just thought Pato O'Ward was more aggressive to get that win and to move ahead. And there might be reasons for that. I'm not entirely sure here, and we'll talk about that here in the news section here coming up. But the drivers, they showed a lot of aggressiveness out there on the track, not just there with that pass for the lead and ultimately the win for Pato O'Ward. It was throughout the race these guys were battling it out. There was a lack of cautions in this race, and that added to the intensity of many of these IndyCar drivers. So intense moments out there battling for positions, including one, Alexander Rossi and Scott Dixon. They made contact, which rattled Dixon's front wing. Let's check that out. Indy 3, please.
Rossi and Dixon, oh, so close. No, actually, there is contact here at Mid-Ohio, where we'll return.
Again, thanks for Fox for that. But you see, you get the damage there, and as a battle, this was all throughout. Even rookies got involved with kind of the aggressiveness out there. Two rookies, Dennis Hogger and Cal Collette. They had to turn forward dust up, and Collette was pushed off the track at that time. Was able to get back onto it. But this was a fun Mid-Ohio race. A lot of aggressiveness out there in this series. Look, we're getting to silly season. People are fighting for positions. People are fighting for jobs, right? With what's coming up in negotiations, and are you on a team, are you off a team? Some big names we've told you about the last couple weeks. Some big names there with Felix Rosenqvist saying he's leaving his team to go someplace else. We told you last week, Scott Dixon going over to that Arrow McLaren. That's going to mix some things up. And I don't know, is that adding to the aggressiveness, or was it just the racetrack there at Mid-Ohio is kind of the question that you've got. Let's look at the finish order here of Mid-Ohio for the IndyCar circuit. As you know, Pato O'Ward and Christian Lundgaard, Arrow McLaren teammates there. 45 laps led for Pato O'Ward, 41 for Christian Lundgaard out there. The only other driver to really have any things, there's two of them. Will Power led 2 laps here with his new team. We're starting to see some success here, at least positive movement on Will Power after a disastrous start to the season with that Andretti Global team he moved to this year. Team Penske, Joseph Newgarden also led 2 laps here going into this race as well. Interesting notes here. Kyle Cookwood, right? His first podium, finished 3rd in this race. His first podium on a road course ever. He's more of an oval driver. Getting into that 3rd spot for him, well, that could do wonders for his future here on these road courses. Will Power, solid run there in that 6th spot. Something to note as well for him. Rinus VeeKay had a fantastic race to get up there into that 4th spot. Everybody's guy, everybody watches, everybody's expecting him to win every race and win the championship. Alex Palou there in 5th spot here. He didn't have his best stuff, but still managed the 5th spot. And that's what's scary about him, is even when he doesn't have his best stuff and struggles on a day, still a solid finish for him as well. David Malakis, who was 2nd in points coming into this race, finished 8th. As well, I already told you, Joseph Newgarden there 9th. Nolan Siegel there. We'll talk about him coming up in that Arrow McLaren spot in that top 10 finish for him as well. Felix Rosenqvist, who we know is moving teams from Meyer Shank next year. Well, he finished 13th in this race as well. And now let's start the championship points here as Alex Palou finishes 5th. Pato O'Ward was in 5th and still is, folks. Alex still leads the championship points 404 points now for him. Kyle Kirkwood, they're in the second spot, 348 with that third place finish. Christian Lundgaard, they kind of switched spots there, Kirkwood and Lundgaard. Kirkwood was in the third spot there, but Christian Lundgaard there in that third spot, 339 points for him. David Malakis, who hasn't got a victory yet, but lots of podium finishes for him in that 338 points here in that fourth spot. And Pato O'Ward, well, making some inroads with that win, but still far back. He's going to need another win or two, which, incidentally, I do think he probably will get at least one more win this season. This is the momentum that him and his team needs to keep moving forward and getting onto the podium more often here with just a few races remaining here on the IndyCar season. And as I kind of alluded to here, there's been some big news in the IndyCar race. It's official. We kind of last week told you we knew a couple guys, big name guys, were leaving their teams. Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenquist. And now we know definitely where they're going. We all knew where they were going, but now it's official. We'll talk about that, but it also leaves a couple drivers homeless going into the season. We'll talk all the news here and discuss that in the news segment of the show coming up after we look at last weekend's racing and get you caught up on that. Next up for IndyCar, well, they get some time off here. July 19th, they go to Nashville for their next race. And then a couple big road courses coming up for them. You got Nashville coming up in terms of a racetrack. You've got the Washington Street Race coming up. And look, a lot of incentive here for guys to win a championship on the Indy side. They need to make movements now. And of course, we know the O'Reilly and Cup Series on the NASCAR circuit. We're over in Chicagoland. First time since 2019 where both of these get over there. Friday was filled with rain, huge downpours here in Chicagoland, which is over in Joliet, Illinois, about 45 minutes or so from downtown Chicago. And so things were hampered here, including the O'Reilly Series. And then going into Saturday, weather moved through the area leading up to the race, and it was rain delayed by several hours. Late race here in terms of the time frames there. They did get the race in on Saturday night, though, and then it ended up going to overtime and an exciting race as well there at Chicagoland. Once we got past some of those crashes that were happening, now, first race since 2019 for the O'Reilly Series at Chicagoland, first overtime race of the season here for the O'Reilly Series as well. That stat alone kind of amazes me. Usually there's a lot more overtimes to these things here. They were able to keep it in the regulations, except for this week. First overtime and led to a new winner here. Brandon Jones stayed side by side with Chase Elliott through the first two corners on the lap 200 overtime restart. Jones then took control in turn 3. Elliott did make a big run at the top of the track to try to catch up to Brandon Jones at that point, but Jones blocked the lane and ended up crossing the finish line for his first victory of the year, 0.171 seconds ahead of Chase Elliott. He held off a Cup Series experienced racer to get that win as well. How exciting was it? Well, I just explained it to you best as I could. It's just easier to show you. Of course, O'Reilly is from the CW, where we get our footage from. Thank you to them as well. O'Reilly won the overtime lap.
Wow, it's good. He was such a big separation. The two behind him, it doesn't give a chance to get a run for Jesse Love. Jones. Side by side, off the corner. Jones is there. Elliott not going away outside lane. Brandon did a great job fighting back on the inside. It's going to be in a good position right here. It's going to be all about the momentum, the chase. Oh, how deep did he go? Look at this, slide it up. Brandon Jones coming back for the white flag. 20 in the race lead. Up, he goes to the bottom. Final time, turns 3 and 4. Outside Brandon Jones, inside Chase Elliott. A couple of Georgia drivers going after it. It's Brandon Jones, checkered flag at Chicagoland.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, we skipped ahead there on our edits. They were just racing there once the white flag came out. But you saw the battle. You saw the end there. Brandon Jones had to kind of stop Chase Elliott from making a run there as well. And it ended up being Brandon Jones' first win at Chicagoland ever. Now, it's the first race they've hosted there since 2019. But it is his first of the season, as I told you. 8th win of his career for him as well. And anytime you get a first win of the season and you've had some emotional runs up and down season here, well, we check in with you. Here's Brandon Jones after the race, O'Reilly 2. If we got it. Let's check in with the guys here as well. This one.
I had to earn that one. I haven't had an exciting one like that in a long time. Thank you guys for sticking this out through the rain and everything. MD Building Supply, Menards. I'm so glad to get them back in victory lane. It's been an up and down year. We've had some success early on. We've been in a little bit of rut the last couple of weeks. So it's just nice to do it like we did today. I mean, we had to earn that one.
What does it mean not only to win at Chicagoland, coming back here for the first time in 7 years, but also to hold up a Cup Series champion to do it?
I think it says a lot about just how resilient we are and how hard we're working at this. Chase made it really difficult on me. He's one of the best in the sport, right? And so I knew he was going to be difficult. We were all on old tires. That was a blast to slide around and duel it out like that. I knew we had probably made the right adjustments at the end there. It was, you could tell people were starting to get a little bit tighter tonight with the temperature falling down and where the track was migrating. So awesome racetrack. You guys know I love these style of tracks. They fit me so well. So let's go on a roll and let's get a couple more here before the chase starts.
Congrats. And
I mean, you just heard it right there from him where he's talking about they're all on old tires. They were. Jesse Love couldn't get the push behind Chase Elliott to get Chase Elliott up there and bump into that lead and fight more with Brandon Jones there to get into it. Chase Elliott did. I don't have the clip for you, but did talk about it after the race. He wasn't upset with Jesse Love. It's just Jesse Love couldn't get going on those older tires out there and things. So it was a fantastic race the way it came down to. And Brandon Jones, good for him getting that win. I think it's impressive holding off a driver like Chase Elliott. Of course, rain delay, crowd stuck around for that as well. And qualifying was canceled in favor of practice because of the rain that happened over the weekend. Interesting enough, like for instance, Connor Zilic, if we throw up the finishing order here as well, we'll talk about Connor Zilic as you see it on your screen here. Connor Zilic ended up 10th here in this race, but he started on the pole because, they go to metrics and things because they didn't get qualifying in. Then you had that rain delay of 4 hours. Connor Zilic led the first stage, right? Started on the pole, finished first at the end of stage 1. He even finished 4.935 seconds ahead of Jesse Love there in that first stage. But interesting development here. When they're in the caution after the first stage, Zilic ran out of gas. He ran out of fuel. He had to be pushed to pit road. He then started stage 2 in 26th place. Well, he climbed all the way up to 9th place by the end of stage 2, which was on lap 90. Then didn't get any better for Connor Zilic there. He cut a tire after contact with the outside wall. He started from the back in stage 3 there, only to spin on lap 156 and back to the back again, right, to move up to the front. So for this third time, he climbed through the field. Like I said, 10th place finish there for Connor Zilic. He did this on the road course as well over at, I believe it was Sonoma. He's having some bad luck where he keeps going to the back of the field and riding up to the front. That bad luck stops for Connor Zilic. You're going to start seeing some momentum for him on the O'Reilly Series. So Brandon Jones is in first, as I told you. Chase Elliott coming down from the Cup Series in second. Jesse Love finished third. Brent Cruz, my favorite young driver in the O'Reilly Series, finished in fourth. Then you got Austin Hill. Justin Allgaier in sixth. Allgaier started 17th because of the metrics they used. Got up to fourth by the end of stage 2. He had that safety violation on pit road for an improperly uniformed crew member. That sent him to the rear for the restart there. I believe it was around lap 100 is when that happened. He ended up finished sixth there. So a lot of big movements here for some of these really fast drivers from that side. Taylor Gray in seventh, Sam Mayer in eighth. Cole Custer coming down from the Cup Series in ninth as well. And I told you, Connor Zilic coming down from the Cup Series in 10th as well for him. Carson Kvapil there in 11th in terms of playoff drivers. Parker Retzlaff in 14th as well. Sheldon Creed 16th. I mean, these are some bad days for some of these guys. Corey Day in 19th here as well for him. Raja Karuth finished 24th in this race. And then you go down to the bottom. William Solwich, right? Only finishes this race here, but in the 29th position for him. And then Kyle and Ryan Sieg back-to-back 30th and 31st in this race. And we're talking, like I said, we're talking some playoff drivers here. Throw up the championship points for me, if you will. This will be O'Reilly 4. And this is O'Reilly 4 is what we need here. If you've got it. If not, I messed up here, guys. That's the Cup Series. While he says it's not there, so I'll just tell you to your face here what is happening. I must have messed that up here. Let me load it up. Sorry for the production here as we talk about it. We know Justin Allgaier's in the first place spot, even though he's had some troubles lately. He's clinched a playoff berth as well. He's got the 898 points for him. Jesse Love in that second spot, closing the gap a little bit, but still way back, 703 points for Jesse Love. Corey Day's in the third spot. Sheldon Creed's in the fourth. Austin Hill's in the fifth spot. Brandon Jones moves up to the sixth spot there with 633 points. Carson Kvapil, Sammy Smith, Parker Retzlaff, Sam Mayer, Taylor Gray in 11th. Brent Cruz there in the 12th spot. Inside the playoff bubble for Brent Cruz, who I think he's going to make the playoffs this year and surprise some people. Him as just a young driver out there that just kind of love the way he's driving. Outside looking in, though, you got William Salwich there in 13th, Roger Carruth in 16th. Now, 44 points back from that 12th spot is the 13th spot, William Salwich. Makeupable points, absolutely. But they can't have bad weekends moving forward. Him and Roger Carruth. Ryan Sieg, 75 points out. Anthony Alfredo, tough to get back into this, 136 points out in that 16th spot. If this keeps continuing the way it does, which we know William Salwich and Roger Carruth will have some successful races coming up, but this keeps going like this, we're going to have the 12 playoffs guys locked in. Plenty of time here before the playoffs happen. Because like I said, 12th, which is inside the playoff, to 13 outside, 44-point difference between those drivers. Easily make upable, but you better start running some races there, William Salwich and Roger Carruth as well, to get back into that. Everybody else is kind of going outside of the purview to get to that point. Now, EchoPark Speedway comes up this weekend for Saturday's O'Reilly Series. We'll look ahead to this weekend racing later on in the show because we've got to talk about the Cup Series coming up, or last weekend there at Chicagoland as well. Same situation, hasn't raced there since 2019. And I thought this turned into a very eventful race here. And we got a first-time winner as well on the 2026 circuit for the Cup Series. And if you taught me if you had Chase Briscoe winning this race, because I'm going to call you a liar. I did see some people say, look for him to go. I don't think anybody had him a winner that I saw. I follow a lot of NASCAR people, obviously. And I saw some people say could be a surprise for a really good finish. They didn't call him the winner there. But Chase Briscoe stayed in front of his hard-charging teammate, Christopher Bell. And Chase Briscoe gets his first win of the season. The first time at Chicagoland he's ever run. Again, hasn't raced there since 2019. But it is the sixth win for Chase Briscoe of his career. He crossed the finish line 0.276 seconds ahead of his teammate, Christopher Bell, of course. Let's show you the white flag lap. Cup 1.
Who's it going to be? Briscoe or Bell?
Oh, Briscoe followed him down in the corner. Loses the nose and tons of car links to the 19 car.
Bell, the broken wrist, driving injured, incredible rally. Great defense for Chase Briscoe and trying to hang on. 3 wins a year ago in the 19, and he's going to see his first checkered flag of the campaign. Here's Chase Briscoe, a winner in Chicagoland.
Let's go, boys! Awesome job!
I mean, that's a fantastic run for Chase Briscoe to get that win there. And again, fighting his teammate out there as well with his broken left wrist out there, Christopher Bell we're talking about. Briscoe held that top spot for the final 46 laps in this race. Now, you win your first race of the year, and you know we check in with you. Chase Briscoe after the race, Cup 2.
Yeah, and how about that race? Was that a good race? It felt awesome. Yeah, what an unbelievable weekend. Just I feel so American winning in the Bass Pro Shops, red, white, and blue car, 4th of July weekend, 250 years. And man, just what an unbelievable race car. James did a great job. Team did a great job. Yeah, just honestly did not see this coming. I was kind of felt like I was struggling in practice and qualifying, but yeah, James and the group did a great job. And man, just so cool to get this paint scheme back in victory lane. Appreciate all of our partners, Freebird, Zap. We got all kinds. Wix, obviously, Tracker Boats, True Timber Camo. So just appreciate each and every person, Mobile One too, that makes this happen. And just what a cool weekend to win a NASCAR race.
And to do it on your crew chief's birthday. Today is James Small's birthday. You've told me for the last few weeks it's been frustrating watching your teammates win. What is it about James Small? What has he meant to your career to get you back to your winning ways?
Yeah, James is, me and him are about the two most polar opposite people in the world, and he just stays on me. He makes me be perfect each and every lap and just does such a great job of keeping me honest. So yeah, he told me if I win today, I can get some chocolate. So I'm pretty fired up about that.
Okay, we're back at Chicagoland. Fantastic race, Chase. What was the difference battling your teammate Christopher Bell, who had 2 lap fresher tires than you? How were you able to hold him off?
Yeah, just I kind of got lucky how the lap cars honestly kind of worked out. I was struggling pretty bad, and Christopher was certainly coming. Out of all the people to race against, I knew Christopher was going to be clean with me. So yeah, just great that JGR ran 1-2. I don't know if we were third, fourth either, but yeah, just a really fun race. I felt like that was about as good as a race as you can get, just from the cat and mouse game. We're slipping and sliding around. Hopefully you can see that on TV. And yeah, just once again, thank you to all you guys. So excited to be back to Chicagoland. Hopefully we can be back.
And all of the video, of course, from TNT Sports, who is doing this 5-race segment here of the NASCAR circuit. A couple more races with them coming up. And look, I left that in there, the longer conversation, because he's talking about it. His car was losing it at the end. The lap cars actually helped him out and control it, kept Christopher Bell behind him as well. Plus, he had the confidence his teammate isn't going to do anything nefarious to wreck him or cause him any harm out there on the racetrack, and try to race him cleanly, as they say out there. I mean, just fantastic race for Chase Briscoe here as well. Now, he finishes first, and, get the man some chocolate, right? He was told he could finally get some. Get that man some chocolate, let him relax here. And, Christopher Bell from his side of the second place finish, he led 417 laps this whole season. He's posted 4 runner-up finishes here this year as well for Christopher Bell. I equate Christopher Bell kind of like the Pato O'Ward of the NASCAR Cup Series. Guy that you like the way he's running, and he's having success out there, just not able to get into the victory lane here as well. And Christopher Bell, after the race, kind of talks about it. Here he is, Cup 3.
I just need to, replay that last run, the last 2 runs, whatever it was, stage 3, whenever it went green. I was really struggling with the handling of my car early on in the race, and I still had a lot of pace. So I keyed up on the radio, and I said, hey, if we get this thing driving good, we're going to have a shot at it. And, yeah, they made a great adjustment and got the car driving great the last run. But, I was a straightaway plus behind, it seemed like. So, yeah, I was soft on my green flag entry for sure, which gave up a little bit of time. So just need to go back and study that green flag cycle on how I lost so much time to the first couple cars. So, yeah, it was a great day. First race with Sia on the Camry, and we almost went to victory lane.
I mean, he says, I'm a second place racer, right? For him moving forward. Christopher Bell, it's coming for him. Especially with his wrist getting better. We'll have more on those updates on his wrist coming up. He did run in a splint last weekend. Now, what does that mean for future races coming up? We'll got that update for you here. But the final stage, well, it ran caution-free from that restart on lap 173. A lot of chaos in the first 2 stages that knocked out a lot of guys, including Tyler Reddick in this race. Had a radiator, something in his radiator, and he had to go in for a radiator change, a bunch of other problems. Several dozens of laps down for Tyler Reddick in here as well in those first couple stages. But it's settled down for these guys. There's Chicagoland as they went through. Throw up the finishing order for me, if you will, for the NASCAR Cup Series. We already told you Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, 1 and 2 here. Chase Briscoe led the 51 laps. Chase Christopher Bell only led 1 here, but was able to get the second place finish. Denny Hamlin finishes there as well in the 3rd spot. 30 laps for him led in this race. Then you got William Byron. Finally, a Chevrolet gets into that fourth spot. William Byron led most of this race, led 94 laps here in this race, and not able to get better than a fourth place finish. Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell flew by him at one point in this race, and William Byron had to hang on for that fourth spot. Alex Bowman, who I question if he's going to have a job with Hendrick next year. A lot of questions around that. Ends up finishing fifth in this race for him. Bubba Wallace, who did lead a lot of laps here, 35 laps in this race. Bubba Wallace had a good race there at Chicagoland. Ultimately finishes up in the sixth spot for him. Ryan Blaney in the Ford. Ty Gibbs in eighth. And then Corey Heim, part-time driver in the series this year, gets a full-time ride next year. He ends up finishing ninth here in this race. Did lead one lap as well. Then Riley Herbst coming in at the 10th spot. Chase Elliott ends up 11th here in the Cup Series after finishing second in that O'Reilly Series for him. Joey Logano, who needs to start racing here, and you'll see some point changes for him. But in that 12th spot for him, Austin Cindric in the 13th, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Todd Gilliland in the 16th spot here in this race. I bring up Todd for the in-season tournament. We'll talk about that coming up here. Otherwise, track out guys, well, kind of some struggling here. Ross Chastain finished 18th. Chris Buescher and RFK finished 19th for him. Brad Keselowski, the other RFK driver, 21st here in this race. Carson Hocevar, well, some issues, finished a lap down in this race as well. But Shane Van Gisbergen, who needs some good oval runs here. He had some good ones earlier this year. Been struggling as of late on these ovals. 25th place there for that Trackhouse driver who dominates the road courses here on the circuit as well. Some big guys we haven't even mentioned yet. We haven't mentioned Kyle Larson, finished 34th. He was running, but he was several laps down, led 23 laps in this race. Did get into a wreck here early on in the race and kind of affected him the rest of the day. And I already told you, Tyler Reddick, well, he was running and was able to finish, got that radiator switched out. He only completed 237 laps in this race. 267 was total run here. Radiator, yeah, it takes a while to change that out. So several laps down for him. Austin Hill and Connor Zilich ended up out of this race in an accident as well. The race featured 28 lead changes among 13 drivers out there. And like I said, kind of the shocker here. Briscoe led 51. Bubba Wallace led 35. Then, not a surprise, Denny Hamlin ended up with leading 30 here as well. 7 cautions for 43 laps. A lot of those were just in the first couple stages as well. Now, Joe Gibbs Racing, they finished 1, 2, and 3. Christopher Bell was second. Well, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin in third. 1, 2, and 3. That's the 8th time the organization's history that they finished 1, 2, and 3. That's an interesting stat, right? 7 Toyotas finished in the top 10 of this race. That's obviously a big number for them, and was the highest amount, 7 out of 10 for the manufacturer in a Cup Series race ever. The Toyotas are running well right now on these 1.5-mile type tracks out there. Go up the championship points for me, Cup 5. And keep that little stat and nugget together when we talk about EchoPark coming up here later in the show when we look ahead to this weekend's racing. Denny Hamlin still in that first spot. He bypassed Tyler Reddick last week. Kind of extended his lead out there with Tyler Reddick struggles again, this time with the radiator. So Denny Hamlin moves that lead out first. Tyler Reddick in second. Still well above Ryan Blaney there in the third. Then you got Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson in that 6th spot, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe getting some movement here into the 8th spot. Carson Hocevar, tough weekend for him in the 9th spot. Christopher Bell getting up into that 10th spot with another second place finish. Then you got kind of the guys to pay attention to. Daniel Suarez is 100 points up in that 11th spot. Then William Byron in the 12th spot. Bubba Wallace, 77 points up in that 13th spot. Then you got a big drop here. SVG is in the playoffs right now if the season ended right now. But he's only 30 points up on that cut line. That can be extinguished quickly. Needs some oval runs. Not necessarily victories. I mean, victories are nice, but needs a top 15, a top 10 in a couple of these oval races to keep that lead and stay on the inside of the playoff pictures. Austin Cindric's only 27 points from the cut line, and Eric Jones is only 4 points. He's one spot above Ryan Preece, who's 4 points outside the bubble looking in. Joey Logano making some movement to the positive this weekend, only 16 points out now. I do think Joey Logano does make it into the playoffs. So who's getting knocked out at that point? I'm not as sold on, AJ Allmendinger, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Preece getting into the playoffs. I just have a feeling Joey Logano is going to get there. Now, will these other guys come in and we'll see some swapping of spots is kind of the question we got here. We're race 19 of 26 here in the regular season in the books. So, 7 races left coming up here. So, not a lot of time to make some movements. You better start thinking about it now if you're on that outside looking in, or you want to shore up your spot on the inside of the bubble line. I do think 6 racers, maybe 7 racers racing for those final 3 spots. Kind of what we're looking at going into these last 7 races. Now, of course, the second week of the in-season tournament is in the books after Chicagoland. And, this is just a fun side cursor. I see a lot of people losing their minds about who gets eliminated and everything. We're just looking at it more on the perspective of a little fun here with the racing as well. Biggest upset this weekend. Go ahead and throw the in-season bracket up for me. Biggest upset this week was number 25, Todd Gilliland, over number 9, Carson Hocevar, into this race, which means Gilliland moves on to face Alex Bowman. He beat Austin Cindric here in this race as well. Bowman is 32nd. So we have a 32nd seed versus a 25 seed. Bowman's 32nd and Gilliland's 25th here, battling it out this weekend coming up here at EchoPark as well. Chase Briscoe, obviously, with his win, he moves on as well. He's got a big matchup this week against Chase Elliott this weekend at a 1.5-mile track, and Chase Elliott's home track as well at EchoPark there outside of Atlanta. That's going to be a fun little side battle to pay attention to going into the race this weekend as well. Then you got Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell battling it out, 2 seed and a 10 seed here. And that side of the line, of course, teammates also with Joe Gibbs Racing. That'll be a fun little side bet to go on. Then you've got William Byron and Ryan Blaney battling it out as well on the bottom right of the bracket, a 3 seed and 11 seed. This weekend coming up. Now, Chase Briscoe did beat Ty Gibbs. That was an upset as well on that perspective. So a couple big upsets, but the difference between this year's bracket compared to last year's bracket, and as I said, we're viewing this just as a little extra fun during the race day and where we're going to. A lot of big names still left this year. Last year, that was not the case, right? So Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, the Chases battling it out, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, all still. No disrespect to Gilliland, but there is a difference there in who's left. So it's not like last year where we're down to a couple, back markers here battling for this $1 million here for the in-season bracket. Next up for the Cup Series, EchoPark in Atlanta this weekend. Well, south of Atlanta, it really is. We'll look ahead to that race later on in the show, but first we got to do our in-scene profit break here. And when we come back, we'll look at the news around racing. Big news in NASCAR. Well, update on Christopher Bell in NASCAR. Big news in IndyCar. Some teams making some bold moves, and a really good driver available now on the Indy side. We'll tell you about that. And, of course, we'll look at the news and ahead to the racing this weekend at EchoPark and LimeRock as well for the Truck Series. Come on back, folks. It's the Pit Stop. here at the pit stop. Woo! What a show we've had so far. Looking back at last weekend's racing there in Mid-Ohio for IndyCar, and of course, Chicagoland, a return to Chicagoland. I've been reading about some scheduling questions that were coming up with the success of Chicagoland. Of course, obviously, the race over there, Coronado in San Diego. So there's going to be some big changes to the schedule in next year, most likely, or some questions on what's coming back. And of course, welcome back to the pit stop. We're the weekly racing show. We look into IndyCar and NASCAR circuits. I'm Stephen McCollum, and don't forget you can watch us on demand on YouTube, TME Media AZ. If you don't like YouTube, you can find us at Rumble as well, rumble.com/user/TME Media. And right above the videos that pop up, it's just what we upload every day with all of our shows. Right above it, you'll see a button for channels. Click on that. Then you can click on the pit stop, the main event, McCollum on business, the Real Matrix. It'll just narrow down to the shows for you there as well. You can listen on your favorite podcast system. If you prefer the audio version, it's at the Pit Stop Talk, or just search the Pit Stop with Steven. It'll come right up for you as well. And don't forget, follow us on X as well. Join the conversation at the Pit Stop Talk on X as well, as we have some fun with the racing. And folks, we've already looked back at last weekend. Now it's time to look ahead to this weekend. But first, we can't forget about the news around racing. And boy, do we have big news on the IndyCar series. So let's get into that news side of it. If you missed the news, last couple of weeks here, if you missed the show due to the holidays, well, we talked last week about Felix Rosenqvist telling Chip Ganassi he's leaving that team at the end of the year. Scott Dixon, we found out last week, is leaving his team as well. And they're all in there. We knew they were going to Arrow McLaren, but there were some question marks that we had. Them going over there. What's the deal? Who's out there? Who's staying? And we learned officially now, as we found out, that they are officially going to Arrow. This was announced earlier this week for 2027. So we found out that it's Scott Dixon, Felix Rosenqvist, Pato O'Ward is staying at Arrow McLaren for the 2027 season. That means two drivers are out. Christian Lundgaard, who we showed you, he's in the points running here, and he's had a very successful year this year. He is out at Arrow McLaren. So is Nolan Siegel as well, a younger driver, trying to find his way. I was reading all the stuff around this, and Arrow McLaren just flat out said, we're trying to rebuild the championship nature of this team. They went inside two of the biggest names there in NASCAR, obviously. Older names, experienced names as well, to come onto their team. And they're letting a couple young guys, especially Christian Lundgaard, who's a successful driver in the Indy circuit, and they're letting him go on, which means Christian Lundgaard is available for another team to pick him up now. Does that bring more ripples to the IndyCar circuit as well? It is a big surprise that Christian Lundgaard is a free agent and is needing a new team coming up. That was a big surprise to me on the move. I was listening to a lot of guys around IndyCar, Bob Pockris there with Fox Sports, talking about him being a free agent and what that could mean into other sides. Lots of speculation on where he can end up at. He could obviously go to Chip Ganassi or SMR as well. And fill in for the guys that just left, of course, to go to Arrow McLaren. Or does he lined up with another big team out there? So big news in IndyCar. Silly season is here. I have a feeling it's going to contend and continue here for the IndyCar side. Now, we told you earlier in the show, Christopher Bell finished second, of course, in the Cup Series run, with that broken left wrist. Well, we also found out that he moved to a sprint last weekend at Chicagoland race, ends up with that second place finish. Christopher Bell was asked about that risk, and he said the pain level, quote, the pain level has been low ever since the beginning. But I would say my ability to drive the car is the same as what it has been. He was talking about moving to the splint at Chicagoland at this point. So the pain, he said, was kind of non-existent. He went on to say, quote, I keep using the word clunky. I can't be quick and precise with the wheel. My mobility is the same with the splint. He said, hopefully I can gain movement in my left wrist here shortly, and I'll be back to normal. Right? These drivers, that's why he struggled on those road courses, right? Left and right turns. You have to be flexible. You guys drive every day in traffic. You know what that takes to do out there. And he's running into the same thing at extremely high speeds here on these racetracks. So they asked him, what's the future of it? You're in a splint now? And he said, quote, I was hopeful that it would be north of Wilkesboro that he'll be out of that. And he said, I think it'll be Wilkesboro or Indy is when he'll be completely done with it. But he led on to this little nugget, which affects him this weekend in Atlanta. Quote, I think we're going to take a step backwards and go back to a cast for Atlanta this weekend. With the nature of the beast there and make sure I have the maximum protection that I can have. Obviously, a drafting track there. A different type of drafting track at Atlanta. The drafting track that I really like to see there at EchoPark. So going back to a cast this weekend to help protect him because of the wrecks that can happen on a drafting track with close proximity with other race car drivers out there as well. So does that change your opinion of what Christopher Bell can do this weekend going into this race? Because I do think he's a favorite. But now with the cast back on there with mobility concerns, that kind of changed your mind. We'll talk about that coming up here just a little bit when we talk about EchoPark here. Because right now we're going to talk about this weekend's racing. Now, IndyCar is off. We told you they don't get back on the track till July 19th in Nashville. But the NASCAR Truck Series is back from its time off. It's over at LimeRock Park up in Connecticut. And, of course, the NASCAR O'Reilly and Cup Series going to EchoPark just south of Atlanta. But let's talk about the Truck Series first here. LimeRock Park. Everybody goes, what's that? Well, it's a little circuit that trucks went to last year, and they had some success. We'll talk about that in a minute because the Truck Series has been off. You don't remember. I didn't remember. Let's refresh where the Truck Series stands with the current championship points out there. Let's be Truck 1, please. Lane Riggs, who was the last driver to win on the Truck Series there in San Diego at the Naval Base Coronado, 562 points for him. Caden Honeycutt, my favorite driver in this circuit, with his success this year, and just like the way he runs and his attitude, he's in second place there with 497 points. You got Chandler Smith, Gio Ruggiero, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, Daniel Hemrick, Tyler Ankrum, and Jake Garcia in that 10th and final playoff spot for the Truck Series. Now we're through 13 of the 18 races here in the regular season, so only 5 races remain here to make the move. Now, Tyler Ankrum in that 9th spot, 2 spots up, 23 points to the positive in that inside the bubble. Jake Garcia is only 5 points up on that outside spot in the 11th spot. But Grant Effinger, if I can say his name properly, is 5 points outside that bubble. So he's within striking distance. So is Stuart Friesen in that 12th spot, 10 points out. Brendan Queen in the 11 points out there in the 13th spot. They can obviously make that up and move into the inside the bubble within one race. Then we're starting to get a little bit lengthier on points. Justin Haley in 14th, 22 points out. And then Andres Perez de Lora, they're in the 33 points out in the 15th spot for him. Kind of tells you where we stand. We do have probably 3, 4, 5 drivers that can move into those final couple spots. Definitely that last spot here, competing for it with 5 races remaining. And it all gets started this weekend at Lime Park. I like it when NASCAR does this with this series as well. It's a standalone race. Now, ARCA's at Lime Park as well, but that's going to be Friday. But Lime Rock is a Truck Series standalone race, meaning no O'Reilly or Cup to overshadow them up there at Lime Rock. So they get a race on Saturday morning this week. I enjoy this, these standalone truck races on Saturday mornings. The few we've had this year. I know we've had at least 2. This might be the second, or this could be the third one coming up. I enjoy this with the Truck Series. They get that Saturday staple. Normally they're racing Friday night, 2 p.m. our time out here on the West Coast. And a lot of people don't get to see them. So Saturday morning, you get to see some racing. Of course, they race Saturday morning. Lime Rock Park, 1 p.m. Eastern time, which means 10 a.m. here on the West Coast. Fox Sports 1, of course, always FS1 giving you the Truck Series this year. Not only that, but practice. Well, you can roll out of bed if you're up early. 6 a.m. is practice here on Saturday for the Truck Series. Qualifying, 7:05 a.m. our time here. Of course, 9 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Eastern for qualifying as well. So early morning, then a couple-hour break, and then racing at 10 o'clock coming your way. If you're not familiar with Lime Rock, well, I don't blame you here as well. It's located in Connecticut between Boston and New York City. Let's throw up the graphic of the track here for the Truck 2. Small little racetrack up there. ARCA Series will be there on Friday, racing Friday night and going. Now, the thing about this track is the outside track that you see there. I know there's a lot of other things inside, but the outermost track is what they'll be racing. And last year, the Truck Series returned to LimeRock after multiple years off there. They had a very successful race weekend, so they're returning this year for the same track. Last year, Corey Heim won this race, of course, in his 2025 dominating season as well. So we're leaving this, going to this road course, and this is a fun little track to watch. It's like a one-off track that is a lot of fun for these truck guys. So the question is, who gets the road course race this year, the win in the Truck Series? Now, interesting enough, right? Time off. Yeah, last time we saw the Truck Series was in San Diego there at Naval Base Coronado. Lane Riggs won that race there a couple weeks ago. He's a favorite this weekend to win again, obviously, leading the championship points at number 1. And you got Caden Honeycutt, right? Gio Ruggiero's good at this. Ben Rhodes can have some success on this type of a race course. So it's not just a shoe-in here for some of these favorites. But I'm going to go with a favorite that I really like driving. He won a road course this year. Kind of shocked everybody by doing it. I think he's going to go into this race and have some success. Gio Ruggiero is somebody that I think is going to win on one of these courses coming up, but I don't think it's his weekend. I'm going to go with Caden Honeycutt to win this LimeRock Park race coming up here. Kind of surprise everybody again with the way he races on these racetracks. So Caden Honeycutt coming up this weekend and getting that Truck Series win. Then, of course, we got to go down south here as well and go to EchoPark. That's just the name of the Atlanta racetrack now. They renamed it several years ago back to EchoPark. And it's on the schedule for NASCAR and O'Reilly and Cup Series. It's a 1.5-mile quad oval racetrack. Now, it is a drafting track, but it's not like the bigger drafting tracks you think about in terms of Talladega and Daytona. You know, these cars will bunch up and get some momentum and run 2x2 across it and get that side. But it's also a fast track where these guys will go out there and actually race as well with the drafting side of it. This is a speedy, competitive racetrack here this weekend. I really like the way Atlanta runs when they do run here as well. This is what draft track racing should be. Unlike the fuel consumption, the fuel saving spectacles of Talladega, Daytona, and Bristol, those types of racetracks, this is what drafting should be. And this is a fun little race this weekend. Well, you get done with the Truck Series and you go to Saturday night racing here for the O'Reilly Series here at EchoPark Speedway. 7 p.m. Eastern, which means 4 p.m. here in the West Coast. On TV, it's on the CW, like it always is. Qualifying will be Saturday, 11 to 12:30 p.m., 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. there in the Eastern time zone. Out here in the West, 8 a.m. to 9:30 is when you can wake up and see the qualifying there at EchoPark. So get up, watch some Truck Series qualifying and practice. Move over, watch the O'Reilly stuff before the Truck Series race there at Lime Park. So this is a fun racetrack. I can't explain it more. You hear drafting. Some people like the spectacle and the way it looks. Some people don't like it. A lot of the diehards don't like it because of the fuel consumption of drafting track. You don't really get that here in Atlanta. It's going to be the usual fast, big names to be favorites this weekend, but also who can survive any incidents that happen, especially later in the race, in terms of damage to the car. Now, the O'Reilly Series raced here back in February 21st, already of this year. Sheldon Creed got the win back then. So we're just a few months away from actually racing this track before. Sheldon Creed obviously will be in the conversation this weekend as well with the way he races here in Atlanta. Brandon Jones raced and won Chicagoland, held Chase Elliott, a Cup Series experienced driver, at bay to get that win. That says he's the contender in this race as well coming up. Now, Austin Hill runs very well at EchoPark. Pay attention to Austin Hill this weekend. I'm going to throw a name out there, kind of a stretch of a name here. Pay attention to Nick Sanchez. He has top 10 finishes here at this racetrack. I think the last 3 top 10 finishes for him. Can he do enough here when he's racing inside that top 10? Can he do enough to push it and be up there and talk about a win here for Nick Sanchez here at Echo Park? Justin Allgaier. Can his bad luck end? Can he get to the front of this racetrack with the speed? Does he get wiped out in something or not able to race here with that drafting side of the track? They struggled there. Chicagoland had some issues. Does that give him some motivation going into this weekend is kind of the question. Then Jesse Love, right? Fantastic racer on this type of a race course. And then my favorite young driver, Brent Cruz. Well, I don't think you should sleep on him at all in this race either. Brent Cruz. Now, drafting track kind of worries me a little bit for him, but the way he's been running, I think he's going to stick his head up there. You get in the right spot, something happens in front of you or behind you, allows you to move forward. That's kind of the luck you need here as well, especially if you're a young driver. Brent Cruz brings that along with him as well. So with this type of track in the O'Reilly series, I'm going to go with the driver that I think is due, but he also races this track well. He has a lot of experience here on these types of tracks, so he can avoid anything disastrous that can happen here with this drafting track. Plus, I think he's kind of due for a win right now, as I just said. He's moving up to the Cup Series next year, and I'm going to go with Jesse Love to win this weekend in the O'Reilly Series at Echo Park. I think that's a little bit of a stretch of a pick. He's definitely not one of the favorites. I could have picked probably 2 or 3 people ahead of him. I think Jesse Love is going to be there at the end and picking up that win in that O'Reilly Series. Then you go to sleep and wake up Sunday morning, and you've got the Cup Series here at Echo Park Speedway. 7 p.m. again, another night racetrack here in Atlanta. 4 p.m., of course, our time out here in the West Coast. TNT still has those broadcasts. A couple more races on that TNT brand as well. In-season tournament continues. We showed you that bracket earlier in the show. Qualifying will be Saturday, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern times, right before the O'Reilly Series, which of course means 1:30 to 3 o'clock here for us on the West Coast. This series, the Cup Series, raced at Echo Park back on February 22nd of this year. It was their last race there. If you remember back to the beginning of this season, Daytona, Atlanta, Tyler Reddick won both of these races. On to 3 in a row eventually after this last race at Echo Park as well. It was his second victory, Tyler Reddick's second victory of the season and also race number 2. This is a fast track, but like I said, a drafting track that relies on a little bit of experience to get you across that finish line at first. And a lot of eyes are going to be pointing toward Tyler Reddick. He's a defending race champion, run here in February. The way he's been running this year, but he has been struggling a little bit lately with a little bit of bad luck, right? Radiator issue last week where something went into it. Hasn't been perfect. He hasn't found victory lane in a while. I was reading article after article over the weekend after Chicagoland ended, and Monday and Tuesday this week. Is it time? Is Echo Park gonna be what's gonna put Tyler Reddick back on the winning track after a start to the season? Chase Elliott, though, considers Echo Park his home track in Georgia. He's from the area. He always runs well here. He'll be in the conversation to win for Chase Elliott. He ain't going to go away quietly. Christopher Bell, right? Strong on this track. Toyota's going to probably dominate this weekend again, like we saw last weekend at Chicagoland. Christopher Bell's second place finish last week at Chicagoland gives him momentum into this race. But remember the news segment where we talked about it. He's going back to a cast for this race for protection. Limits his movement a little bit more uncomfortable for him to drive with. So those questions remain about that risk on this type of a track with the drafting needs that you have with a cast on there. To me, that kind of takes Christopher Bell out of the conversation into this weekend, especially going back into the cast. Like he says he's going to. If he would have stayed with the splint or been in the cast all along, well, maybe I'd lean his way a little bit more as he's gotten used to it. Going back to it, kind of a question mark in my eyes this weekend for Christopher Bell. I'm going to give you a long shot here. And if you think about it, it's not really a long shot, but the way he's been running, he's outside the playoff bubble looking in. This is kind of a long shot this weekend. And he needs to start stacking good finishes. Joey Logano is somebody you need to look at this weekend. By statistics, every metric out there, Says Joey Logano runs this track well, and he's got a chance to win this thing. I tend to think, though, his teammate Ryan Blaney has more success here and a better chance of winning this weekend. But pay attention to Joey Logano this weekend to have a really good race weekend. Now, last week, Toyota dominated this race. 7 of the top 10 were Toyotas. 3 of the top 4 were Toyotas as well. Toyotas are just running so well right now. Fords, not. They're not. Chevy, only a couple drivers are running well. I expect Chase Elliott to have a good weekend here coming up. Obviously, his home track, you expect him to do that type of work out there. But I expect the Toyotas to continue their dominating run here this weekend as well, which means you can instantly put Denny Hamlin as somebody to watch here at this racetrack. Now, there's drafting track, not really Denny's thing, but something where, because of the way you can open it up here, while this is a drafting track, tells me Denny Hamlin could be up there at the end, and his experience and drive will kind of push him over to winning at this racetrack as well. Now, my pick for this weekend, I have not been high on this race pick. This driver, I haven't been. He's been terrible, outside the bubble looking in. But the drafting style of EchoPark is going to bring out confidence in this driver. If he can stay out of the back of the racetrack and stay out of the stuff that can happen in front of him, he can go to victory lane this weekend. And that driver's Joey Logano. I'm going with a stretch pick this weekend, and I'm going with Joey Logano. Yeah, it would have been easy to pick Chase Elliott. It would have been easy to pick Ryan Blaney, Joey's teammate there, Logano's teammate. It would be easy to think Tyler Reddick is going to come back this weekend and have some success out there. It would have been easy to pick a Toyota, folks. I just told you I expect Toyota to dominate this weekend. I'm going Ford this weekend. I think Joey Logano's getting that win, and hey, if I hurt myself stretching for it, then so be it. Then I'll hurt myself stretching for that Joey Logano win this weekend at EchoPark. Hey, I appreciate you joining me for the pit stop this week. Of course, we'll be back next week as well. Look back at EchoPark and LimeRock as well. Look ahead to IndyCar, July 19th there at Nashville. And, of course, NASCAR getting to crunch time. We're under 5 races left here for the regular season. You got to start making moves to get into the playoffs. Keep you updated on that, of course. The in-season tournament will pare down a little bit more after this weekend. And we'll see, do we have a couple big names remaining, or no long seeds or low seats here that continue to move on here in this in-season tournament? Fun little side note, I enjoy it just because it changes nothing here on the weekend race course out there. Just fun times to do it. Don't forget, follow me at the Pit Stop Talk on X. Love for you to join the conversation with us during the races and the news during the week. I mean, the big news right now all over the feeds. We don't talk a lot of F1 because F1's a whole nother series that lots of money will win there, and there's some movement happening there in the F1 circle. I don't know if they're true rumors or not, so I hesitate to mention them out there. But some big rumors of some moves on F1 with one of the best drivers of all time in F1. Not happy with his team. We've known that. So we'll just have some fun with that on the social medias as well. And maybe talk about that next week as well, folks. And appreciate you joining me on the pit stop. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your race week. See you next week, everyone. Stephen McCollum, have a great racing week.